So this week, I thought we could talk about high maintenance habits that Farah and I do to remain chill, low maintenance girlies, but also in terms of kind of like our emotions and also finances, because I personally don't relate to the high maintenance beauty routine specifically, but I feel like there are things I do that could seem high maintenance that actually enable me to be someone who doesn't need, like, for example, a beauty routine or a high maintenance, like, like something that revolves around your looks. And I've made a couple of TikTok posts on this, and I think some of the things I do, it's always kind of like, it always comes back down to like background checks for me that mean that my day to day I don't have to like think so much. It's like I'm making it easier for me to make less decisions over the course of my life rather than having to make loads of decisions every day. I think that's kind of like the idealistic low maintenance lifestyle for me. But what do you think? What do you think about the whole trend? And like, do you think it applies to your life or not?
I think the trend in general, yeah, I've seen it more from like a beauty point of view. So like having those appointments that you'll book in advance to make sure that for the rest of the month you're kind of looking pristine and you're on top form. So that's kind of what I've seen the trend a lot more. The idea and the principle behind it makes sense in my head because I think especially as a girl, like you do want to be looking your best, and there's so much that goes on with us like being on top form, like especially physically as well, and looking after ourselves, which is so important. And I think there's a line between like vanity and getting into, like obsessing over your physical appearance, but then also just wanting to take care of yourself. And I think, yeah, high maintenance girlies get a little bit of stick for wanting to have that lifestyle, which I'm not mad about it. Like, I think if you want to look after yourself, you want to get your nails done, you want to get your eyebrows or your lashes done, as long as you know and you're sensible with your money and you know you can afford those things, then I think it is a really good way of, like, if you actually schedule those things into your month and you are very good at kind of organizing that, so then you don't have to think about things like that the rest of the month. So something like laser hair removal, for example, it's a big cost up front, but it is something that saves so much time. You'll probably save so much money as well in razors and other like hair removing equipment in general over time. So it is one of those things that, I don't know, it just depends whether people see them as a necessity or not. Like, stuff like that is really important to me personally because it does save so much time. You obviously take time out to get the treatment done to begin with, but then it does have a knock-on effect on how you spend your time in other ways. So yeah, I think the trend, it's only a good thing if people are sensible with it, I think, just because when you are getting treatments done or you're doing stuff, you can get stuck in a trap where you think it's necessary and you think that spending all that money is almost like a bare minimum, when actually you can do things at home, you can do things kind of DIY, and it's not always necessary to go out and pay for the treatments that you could kind of do otherwise, like if you didn't have the money for it. So I think that's the line that I draw, is like I love the idea of doing all that stuff, but a lot of the time I've gone through phases myself where I actually went through a phase maybe a couple of years ago of getting my nails done every single month, and I would go to a salon and get them done, and then I realized how much money I was spending. And at that time, like, I think I was saving for my property and there was other bigger goals that I had, and I was like, that is really money I could do without spending, and I could actually just invest in a gel manicure set that I keep at home and then do my nails myself every month. And it'll take me a bit of extra time because I'm new to it, but I would actually save a lot more money in the long run, and actually it'll get me closer to my monetary goals, like outside of my physical appearance. So I think there's a way to also navigate it in a way that you're being sensible and also focusing on the important financial goals that you have alongside, wanting to keep yourself put together and just wanting to like take care of yourself a little bit, because I think it's important for us girls to feel like we can do that and are not like shamed for that, even if it does cost that little bit of money to get our hair done or do those things.
Yeah, agreed. I think you have to like ask yourself, like, what is it that gives you, I think it's a line between like, what is it that gives you confidence when you leave the house or when you go into a meeting, like what makes it, what are the things that make you feel like you've got what you have in front of you, and then drawing a line between that and also okay, well, what do you feel like you're spending a lot of time doing in your day to day? And to take it back to even like laser hair removal, because I think laser hair removal is one of my biggest like high maintenance things I do to remain low maintenance, because it's high maintenance because it's a high cost, like you said, and it's actually like it's quite a bit of a faff. Like the actual laser appointments, you have to shave.
They're not actually very fun.
They're not fun. You have to shave like really close before you get there. It's really, I find it really awkward. Like I used to go for waxes before as well, and I used to find those really awkward. I just don't like stuff like that. So the experience itself for me is just like meh, but it's a high maintenance experience that I only have to do temporarily as well. Like I don't have to do that for the rest of my life. It's just an upfront thing, but it results in not just less hair, because obviously less hair is great, but like I spend less time in the shower. Like my actual shower routine is much more simple. Like you said, you're buying a lot less products, so actually financially it's I think over the course of your life, I really want to sit down and do a calculation on like how many razors, replacement blades, shaving foam. I want to do like minutes in the shower, like how much I'd be saving by actually just investing into laser hair removal. It's like all the add-on effects, which is why I said at the beginning, it's like, okay, well, how can I actually simplify my day and like make less decisions by doing certain things up front? And laser hair removal is literally one of the biggest ones. I also think things like therapy and journaling are really trusting high maintenance habits that actually make you a very low maintenance person. Because if I think back to the person I was before I was like a level of self-aware and also into like learning about myself and like into therapy and into journaling, I was a person who was very like, I'd get depressed, stay depressed, then not be depressed, and then get depressed, stay depressed. It's like a cycle where I'm just like taking each hit as it comes and then wondering why my life is such a mess, and like letting all that affect, like letting the cycles of like mental health affect your day-to-day life. Whereas now, with a way to like regulate that through journaling, through therapy, those are just the things I use, but you can obviously, like anything that you do applies here. Those like cycles are much more maintained, and like they don't like blow up my life as much anymore. So it in a sense, I'm a little bit more low maintenance because I'm not like emotionally like irrational, or I like know why I behave certain ways or I'm thinking certain ways at any given time. So that thing I think about a lot when I think about like the high maintenance to be low maintenance trend, because yeah, I think taking it back to what you said at the beginning, I don't feel like I need certain things to be done like on a monthly basis in order to feel like good about myself. But I don't know if that's just because I'm also lazy. Like there's also an element of like, okay, what is the difference between low maintenance and lazy? Because I would love to have my nails done all the time. I definitely feel like prettier with my nails done, but they're naked like more of the time than not. And like I just take care of my cuticles, which is actually what was in my TikTok video that I made on like how I'm low maintenance, is like I try to take care of my cuticles so that my nails look not manicured but neat, and like my fingernails aren't crusty, so that gives me the comfort of like, okay, I'm still put together and like appearance wise fine, but I'm not like the high maintenance element of that is literally like oiling my cuticles. It's not like going to a salon and spending lots of money every month.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to not need, like, you're not going to be high maintenance in every area of your life or every like specific thing. So I feel like every girl will have their like certain things that they won't like want to compromise on. Like you've got the laser hair removal, for example. For some girl, it will be their gel manicures or their like acrylic sets. So I feel like we all have those certain things that make us feel super confident and make us feel put together more so than something else. The whole like definition of it, isn't it just the idea of doing something up front that probably has a bigger cost or more time spent up front for you to then go into the next month or however long, not having to kind of keep it up?
I feel like high maintenance is more like, high maintenance to me is something you have to do a lot and often. So it's like high effort, high maintenance.
Yeah.
Like that's what in my head high maintenance was. So that's why like laser, to me, seems high maintenance because like it's a lot of effort and you have to do it kind of like relatively often.
But then is shaving high maintenance? Because
yeah,
that is...
shaving is high maintenance.
Oh, so you would class it as... I guess it is, yeah, routine in substitute of the laser hair removal.
It's like things you can't like drop for a while.
Yeah. But in terms of the trend itself, so doing high maintenance things in order to be low maintenance, I think the high maintenance definition within that kind of context is that you're doing this stuff up front so that there's a period of time where you can be low maintenance and you can like not think about those activities and have them like a daily chore for you to kind of think about.
Yeah, that's how I've thought of it. Yeah,
there's so many like different things that you can think about that in that sense, and like you mentioned, like the journaling, the meditation, like there's loads of different areas of life, because I think especially something for me recently is the whole self-help, self-development stuff that I've started doing is definitely really freaking high maintenance, and it is such like big work to do, but it has helped me understand a lot of things that maybe before I would just like things that you trip up on day after day and you don't actually realize that it's making your day more difficult and it's like making you a bit more miserable than you actually are realizing. And when you kind of do that upfront work and you switch your focus a little bit, and it is high maintenance because it's so much effort. And I think, yeah, it's probably the effort that makes it high maintenance, some in that category at least. So some categories like the physical appearance stuff, it'll be high maintenance in terms of cost. But I think then there's other areas of life where it'll be like high maintenance in terms of like the effort you have to put in and like the kind of the work that you have to do. But then it does have a knock-on effect on your day-to-day because you are probably a more pleasant person to be around. You understand things a lot more. You are just like more knowledgeable about like behaviors and that can bleed into your life in a really positive way and just make your days a lot more like pleasant. So it definitely, yeah, I guess that would be the low maintenance definition in that sense, and it's worth doing. So I think these things are really like important to consider and find different ways that you can lead a life where you're doing the upfront work in any area. So even with finances as well, like I would say the high maintenance part of me organizing my finances and being on top form with that is tracking my spending and saving at the beginning of the month, like budgeting and doing all that upfront work, knowing where my money has gone the previous month, knowing what I'm going to be spending my money on, and just having that awareness and having that sit down every single month to figure things out before I then jump into the month and just spend willy-nilly and just like, you know, like not really track anything and not really know where anything's going and then just hope for the best.
Yeah, because then in that context, high maintenance is waking up every day being like, I don't know how much money I have. I don't know what I'm supposed to be spending on today. I don't know if my spending today is going to take me towards my financial goals. I'm going to wing it and hope for the best. Like that is like a high maintenance attitude to finances. Whereas I do what you do as well. You know what? I haven't done it this month yet and I feel a bit guilty. But I do what you do.
It's only been a week.
Well, I feel like a week is a long time because like all your direct debits come out at the beginning and I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, like at the beginning of the month, reviewing your last month's spending and then kind of thinking about what you want to change, or if you want to not change anything at all, or even thinking about like, oh, have I made a dent towards my savings for the year? Having those conversations with yourself, which actually, like, we talk about like, oh, those conversations and budget and review your finances. I think this whole routine for me, now that I do it, it takes me like 10 to 15 minutes now. And even at the beginning, it was overwhelming to start because I didn't like looking at my bank balance. But it would maybe it took me half an hour, and now it takes me like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not a really long, like when we say high maintenance, it's not that like drudging up anything difficult, unless you have like an old school bank, which is annoying to log into. It's not too much of a high maintenance process to do, but it just allows you to then be chill for the rest of the month because you know what you're doing. And as you were talking there, I was thinking, you know, the Pareto principle, I think it's a Pareto principle, like where if you do 20% of the work or 20% of the like grind for 80% of a result. I think it applies here as well, because like I was even thinking about meal prep, like the weeks that I think about my food in advance, or like think about like, okay, I'm going to be in the office on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and I'm going to go to the gym on a Friday. That means I need at least 6 meals prepped. So then on Sunday, that means I'm going to do the high maintenance work on a Sunday would be planning what those meals are, cooking them up, and then packing them up in the fridge or the freezer. But then that means for the rest of the week, you're chill. Like, that's done. It's like, visualizing all the effort that you put in day to day to like doing things that you want to do, and seeing if you can just group it up and do it on one day, so that those days is just like effortless and like nice and peaceful. I always end up relating food and not food, finances and fitness or food. It's really weird. I feel like they overlap so much. It's crazy. Yeah, like principle wise, I feel like there's loads of overlap in terms of like finances and food. But when you think about like, oh, how can I make my life more low maintenance, I think that's a really, like, the Pareto principle is a really good way to try and think about what is it that you can only do 20% of the hard work for 80% of like easy results. And yeah, finances, I think the other thing that I do, I don't know if you do this as well, is use sinking funds for like year-round expenses. And a sinking fund is essentially just like a fund that you can have on the side in any bank. I prefer like the online e-banks because you can actually create like separate pots in those ones. Like, it's a great way to actually, not physically, but like actually separate the money that's going into a pot. And then a sinking fund would just be money that is going to like sink, like to be spent. And you can use sinking funds to pay off credit cards, or like the boring stuff like pay or save up to get paid for insurance, like home insurance or car insurance, or Christmas presents and birthday presents and stuff. But I really like to use them for holidays, but also spontaneous holidays, because I don't book things in advance. Like, I'm just not good at that. I think you're the same as me. Like, I'm just really bad at committing to holidays. I don't know why. I'm working on it slowly. But because I know that about myself, I build a sinking fund for travel. And it doesn't mean I'm going to spend it all. Like, it's not money that I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend £10,000 on traveling this month. Well, this year.
That's the dream.
I'm gonna just put 10k there, and then it means when I eventually book a last minute holiday, because I know myself, I'm gonna end up booking a last minute holiday, I'm not panicking about the impact of it on my finances. So I'm doing the upfront work of putting the money aside now, even though I don't know if I'm gonna use it. And to me, that's high maintenance, because I could just keep that money in my account and spend it, right? Or I could just lock it away in stocks and shares or something and not have it to spend, and then freak out when my holiday's booked. But I'm actually choosing to do the hard thing and like put it away in a semi-accessible place, hoping that when I do end up booking my last minute holiday, I'm not like stressed out. But that's, again, goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Like, I know I've figured out with myself that I am last minute, and instead of trying to force myself to not be last minute, I'm just making my money work in a way that fits me and it fits my personality.
Yeah, I think that's the important part in all of it, is that you figure out what you want to prioritize and what is important to you. Then you have to work backwards and figure out, okay, for me to like live like that, or the way that I operate, how can I make it easier or less anxiety ridden when things come up, and can I be prepared in advance? And I think that's a good way to do it. I used to have a Monzo, well, I still have the Monzo account, because that's really good for like all the like pots that you can split stuff into. But then I kept hearing stuff that they were like, people's accounts are getting shut down and all this stuff was happening, and I got freaked out.
I have heard about that, yeah.
So now my money is just like lumped into like some other, like, I'm still trying to figure out how to get myself to a position where I can split my money out, because I think that is the best way to actually really identify like what you want your money to go towards, like being able to split it out like that, because I did that for years. It was just the best way to actually figure out, okay, I want to spend this much on this, and you actually can put your goal in there and like work towards it. And that is how I used to save money really quickly. And now, because I ended up taking it out because I got really scared of having a lot of money in there and then like not being able to access it. I don't know if you use Monzo too, or a different bank.
I used to use Monzo, but now I use Starling, and they have a similar feature called Spaces. And it works in a very similar way, like, because you can like set a goal and it shows you a little progress bar.
Is it safe, like, compared to...
I mean, I think it's safe, but also I'm not almost sound like not a regulator or anything, but also like I don't put thousands in there. I put, well, a couple thousand. But I don't put like my entire, like, I don't know if I would put my emergency fund in there. No, I think emergency fund would have to be in like a high interest account. But the stuff that's in like an e-bank or an online bank for me is stuff that I'm going to spend within a year.
Because like I had my wedding fund in there, for example, but that was obviously a big chunk of money. And then I was like, oh my God, if I lose that and I can't pay for my wedding, then what am I going to do? So, and there's only a few months away. Yeah, it's so tricky when it comes to like banking and stuff, because like you hear so many people talk about their experiences with things, and like when you get into social media and actually like hear the news and stories and stuff, it's like really hard to figure out, okay, what is actually right for me, and is this going to be like the best decision? Because all the new kind of like digital banks, they have the best features in terms of like being able to manage your money better and actually figure out like where you want your money to go, versus the, you know, the more traditional like high street banks. They don't have any of that. Like to open a new account or like save your money separately, you have to actually then like contact them and actually like fill in forms and, you know, do all this extra work just to have a separate place to put a bit of your money, just so you know, okay, that money is for my new car or that money is for my wedding. Do you know what I mean? And it's really annoying. So
I know what you mean, and look, I'm literally just going to try and Google it now. I'm sure that Monzo and Starling are protected. Yeah, it's like FSCS, which protects you for up to 85k in total across all the accounts you hold in your name or where you're listed as a beneficial owner. And I'm sure that Monzo and Starling have this, but I think Revolut was the only one that didn't, but I don't know if that's up-to-date information. Like, I don't want this to be like a source of financial information advice, by the way.
Nobody take this as financial advice. This is just us discussing.
Also, Starling is protected, so deposits are covered up to 85k. So is Monzo.
But people say that they can't access their money, which confuses me. And it's so hard to know like what's actually real online and what isn't.
Yeah, I think for those things, like, because Monzo and Starling, they still do ID protection. They take copies of your passport. Like, I can't change my password without having to record myself talking. Like, there is, obviously it's like, yeah, it's a financial services company. Like, they're not gonna steal your money or like lock away your money. So I wouldn't be too worried about using them, especially if like this, you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to start separating my money into sinking funds. I'm going to start doing it now. We're like, I would prefer you actually just go and open the account and like try and set up your sinking funds and set up your transfers, because I doubt anyone listening has got like more than 85k that they're willing to just put into a travel sinking fund. And if you are, then why are you listening? Can you just send me some money, please?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it is so beneficial for your finances and for you to manage your money by having access to something that allows you to do that. So that's why I'm like, I want to get to the bottom of like maybe trying to do that again for myself, even just because I know how beneficial it is and how much easier it is to save towards stuff as well. You know, when you have that one pot that is just for that, and you know you can't touch it, and you know you don't want to touch it because it's literally got a label on it saying what it's for. It makes it so much easier rather than having all your savings in one thing and you're thinking, okay, this much is for this much is for that. And then you don't really feel like you're accomplishing much because it's just like lumbered into one account, and you like feel like you can just dabble into it whenever you want. That's the kind of trap you fall into if you don't really separate things out and have a good, like a specific goal. I guess that is like a high maintenance thing as well, even just separating your money into pots and actually being like doing that work in terms of like, what are my goals and what do I actually want to put money towards? And like Dev mentioned, the sinking funds for travel. Like if you are the kind of person that does book these spontaneous holidays and you want to do things kind of off the cuff and not necessarily have them planned far in advance, at least if you know it's something that's going to cost money and something that technically you would need to save for, then do that saving anyway and have that pot ready. It doesn't necessarily have to be all planned out where the location is and where you're going and like know all the details, but at least you have that money there for you to use when you want to.
Yeah, and I've just thought of another high maintenance financial habit as well. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but do you think investing is a high maintenance habit to be low maintenance later? Like, would you count that as one? Investing into the stock market?
I would say it's high maintenance just because of how kind of difficult it is to actually understand that world, and like all that work you have to do to figure out like what you're actually investing in and how the world works. And obviously there's a lot of risk involved as well, so it is high maintenance in terms of like the effort you have to put into upfront, yeah, for sure. But then once you do, and if you make those gains, and if you actually do end up like investing and then growing your money, then yeah, it's super low maintenance later because you just reap the rewards of it.
I think so. I think the high maintenance part is also the fact that if you actually want to reap really good benefits, you have to part with a chunk of money like now that most people could actually just do with now. Like, especially if you take, for example, like if you're investing like 15 to 20% of your take home pay, which would probably be like the minimum recommended amount, right? If you have disposable income and you have the ability to actually invest money that you don't need right now, that's actually money that you could just keep. Like it's easier to look at money that you're putting away for like future you as money that you could just do with now. You could just do with putting that into your travel sinking fund for this year rather than like thinking about, oh, I can't wait for it to compound in 20 years kind of thing. But I think if you accept that is the high maintenance, I think anything that is high maintenance means that it's going to pay off in low maintenance. And like things like compound interest is going to help that like £1,000 turn into like, I don't know, I'm pulling a figure out of my butt here, but like, I don't know, 40k. I don't know, I need a compound interest calculator, but compound interest works. Like compound interest has never not worked. The stock market has only done well in the last 20 to 30 years. It's not lost anyone money, especially if they've invested early. So it's not something that's like going to result in either you losing money or you having to be high maintenance later, because of the fact that if you invest now and that money grows with compound interest, that means later on you have way more money, which means you're able to be low maintenance because you don't need extra money because you got that money that you put away 20 years ago. And that's something I had to like really talk myself into when I was not only like when I started investing, but also like as my salary increased and as my like earnings potential increased. I thought, okay, I'm going to incrementally increase my standing order to my stocks and shares ISA to make sure that I'm always like upping that amount incrementally. And even that was like an annoying decision because I was like, I know I'm doing this because it's a smart thing to do, and I know it's going to pay off in compound interest, and I know that I'm not going to lose money, but at the same time it's just like, I wish I could keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the good news is with the investing, like technically you get all that money back and more, so it's never like just going, it's not like a tax where it's just like leaving your account forever.
Same with your pension, actually. Sorry, you literally just reminded me with your pension, because I think I saw it was trending ages ago that like loads of young people would prefer to opt out of their pension when they get a job. And I actually remember being in this position, which is so annoying to admit. But I remember when I got my first job and the salary was so horrendously low that I remember when I was thinking about looking through the benefits and the options and pension contributions, and I thought, oh, if I just opt out, I get like an extra £100 in my pocket. And what a miserable decision that would have been. Because our pension contribution scheme back then was like really, it was quite good when we joined. Changed now. But if I had done that, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of the employer match, the consequent tax relief, the consequent topping up of my pension fund, which is usually invested into the stock market anyway. And that feels like a high maintenance thing because it is literally like less money in your payslip, but it's more money that you're going to get in compounded funds later on. And also it's less taxes because it reduces your increases your taxable income. It reduces your taxable income. I'm getting it the wrong way around. So that's also a high maintenance habit, to try and be low maintenance, I think, like actually contributing to your pension and not choosing to opt out.
Yeah, the pension is a weird one because like I remember being the same. I remember I had my contribution at the minimum when I first started work because I was like, why are they taking extra money off me? I already don't have enough. And then by the time, like, I think I did that for a few months or a year, and then I actually, the more I spoke to people, and then I obviously was studying back then as well, and then I realized actually no, this is pretty good benefit, especially like you said, like the odds for how, like the ratio of how much the employer would put in versus how much you would. And also when I started paying my student loan back, I was like, put all of it into my pension because then they don't have to take it because that ended up being a lot of money every month. So it is a weird topic for young people, I think, because you almost think, I'm going to get this money when I'm like 70 years old. So why on earth am I going to put it aside now? Because even when it comes to investing, you can technically take that whenever. But your pension money, you can't. You literally have to wait until that point. So it can feel really frustrating. And I did watch a girl's video, and I think she was based in London, and she did literally make this whole video about how she opted out of her pension at work because she wanted essentially the money to live, like extra spending money. And there was a huge debate in her comment section. Some people calling her really stupid. Some people being like, yeah, I've done the same thing. Like, why would I not have the extra money? And it's so crazy because I think there's just not enough like knowledge about pensions among young people in general. I think it's a really weird topic for young people to talk about. And it seems like it's only a topic that like the older generation, or even people that not even are close to retirement, but are just, I don't know, maybe just in more senior positions. I think sometimes it almost feels like it's only worth people like that, like putting money into a pension. But it's the same with investing. The earlier you start, the better it is for you because of the compound interest and because of it getting invested. But I think it's just the risk element that scares people, because it always says in like big letters, as much as it can go up, it can go down. So then people are like, well, why would I bother taking that risk?
Yeah, I think so. There's two things. I think with young, like when you said young people not understanding how it affects them, and like we are young people.
Yeah, we are. I meant like younger than us, like early 20s.
Younger than us. But like I think as young people as well, I think what's changed my mind, and because I was like that person that was like close to not opting out, but like reducing my contribution to the minimum as well. The thing that's changed my mind is actually just having a think about or accepting that the extra money that I would get from having a minimum contribution, like in my pocket, that amount isn't going to make that much of a difference to my lifestyle than it would being invested into my pension and also getting that employer match as well. Like, it's not that the money that goes into your pocket is the money that would have been contributed into your pension because of the employer, especially with a workplace pension, because of the employer match. It's actually much more than that actually gets contributed into your pension that actually ends up in your pocket. And the amount it's very negligible in terms of lifestyle. Like, and I know when I say like very negligible, I'm also like wincing at that because when I first started my grad job, there was any extra £50 to £200 would have made a massive difference in terms of like, that's a couple of food shops. That's actually like half, I think it was like, well, 250 would have been like half our rent at the time, which doesn't seem like much, but I also don't live in London, by the way, for anyone listening. So that's nice. But yeah, like it's not going to make a massive impact on your finances. It could make a little bit of one, but the impact it would have sitting in your pension on the later portion of your life is a lot bigger because of compound interest. And one thing to keep in mind is, like, I've also seen not pensioners, but like our parents and my friends' parents and stuff. I've seen them having to think about like finances and think about like, oh, what do they want to do? Like, what holidays do they want to go on? And they're making their decisions based off of their pensions, their investments, their savings, and having to see some people actually compromise or like cut back on what they want to do at ages 60 plus makes me think like, I don't want to be in that position. I want to be able to be a lot more free in my decision making when I'm like that age. And also, if we look at the statistics, there's also, for any women listening, you're more likely to be in, I think it's called like pension poverty, or to basically have like a very little pension or be close to poverty when you're 60 plus. If you're a woman, like, you're more likely to have a lot less money basically the older you get, because of the lack of education around like pensions and investing and saving. I think generally like wage gap can take everything into account, and you're just more likely to have less money if you're a woman and older, which is annoying. So if you're a woman listening, it's even more important that you don't opt out and you maximize those contributions, and you do these like high maintenance things in order to be low maintenance over the course of your life. And like if investing in contributing to your pension leaves you with like lower amounts of disposable income, then I would honestly, and this is what me and you did, like we just found ways to increase our income. And like I didn't, obviously we did that through like content and social media, but like that wasn't the intention when I started social media. But I was always interested in the internet and like businesses and online businesses, so I always like I built on that to try and think about, okay, how can I just earn this extra money instead of pinch from my salary instead. And I think that's also a high maintenance habit. It's like that's going to pay off in lower decision making and freedom in general in your choices later on in life, and also like pretty much like 30s and 40s as well, not just 60 plus.
Yeah, I guess thinking of that age, it just makes it so feel like, am I even going to get to that age? But even if you do it in your early 20s for your 30 or 40-year-old self, just so that they don't have to work as hard, because you have more energy at that age and you have more, just like more time, more resources maybe. Like you're just standing in life is a lot different. So you probably have better opportunity to make more money quicker, and you may as well do that and like sacrifice a bit of the extra time or money from your salary to put into a pension, because you know you're doing it for your future self. And I think seeing things as a sacrifice now is, I don't know, it's just a mindset shift I think that should happen. Is it's not so much a sacrifice if you're actually going to reap rewards later on. I think people forget that part. It's like, it's not actually going away. It's not actually something that's like taking away from you if your future self is going to gain from it.
Yeah, that's such good advice actually. You're not actually removing anything, you're not giving anything up, you're just
postponing
it
it
around. Yeah. I think you could even apply that to like meal prepping. I think like you're not sacrificing your Sunday, you're actually just
helping out future you in the rest of the week.
Yeah, you're just making like Friday you a lot happier and a lot less stressed. It's like, it's quite a nice way to think about it. Actually, I might try and do that this week.
Yeah, it takes it's like one of those habits you have to get into too, because even for me, like things like meal prepping, oh my lord, it just like, it's the bane of my soul. I hate doing it. Yeah, because it just takes so much out of you, like spending an entire day doing an activity that I don't even enjoy doing to begin with. But then when I'm in during the week, and even if I just prep like veg, for example, and cut onions in advance, or like do like little things like that, and then something that you use in pretty much every meal is already there, ready. I don't have to like cry every single day while I'm chopping onions because I've done it for one day. So that makes me really happy whenever I've already like basically done the work for my future self. So yeah, when you do it, you do realize the benefits of it, and it just makes you more inclined to do it more. You just have to do it once first and realize like how good it is to then have yourself feel low maintenance and not have to like rush around and do everything from scratch the rest of the week.
Low maintenance lifestyles for the win. We hope you could actually take some stuff away from that, because I think that went from like beauty maintenance to pensions.
That went from 0 to 100. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you lot are set up for life now after this episode.
So yeah, we hope you took some stuff away. And also, if you do anything, because I actually love this topic of like high maintenance habits to be low maintenance. So if you do anything that's high maintenance and you're low maintenance, I want to know like desperately, because I just love this stuff. I eat it up. So let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening to us on Spotify, please give us a rating. Let us know what you think, and also let us know how we're doing as hosts, if there's anything we can do better, because we want this to be a podcast you want to listen to, and we want to be the best host we can be as well. Also give us a little rating on Apple Podcasts as well. I think there's a little review section at the bottom of our podcast page that you can scroll down to and leave a comment if you want. And if you do decide to leave us a comment or a review, I think we might start just doing wee shout outs in our episode, just to share the love and the appreciation as well. So yeah, get on doing that. But otherwise, it was lovely to speak to you all, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye.